Okay, moving on to Red Riding Hood. It's a story set in a medieval village where a girl named Valerie wants to run away with her betrothed, this brooding outsider, to avoid a arranged marriage. But her plan is foiled with the arrival of the wolf, who is ending this long-standing truce with the villagers where he's not allowed to kill any human beings, and he's now killed Valerie's sister. So that sets off a, huge hullabaloo in the town, and all the villagers are trying to find out who is the wolf because they know it's one of them, but the question is, who is it?
I wish it was Winston Wolfe, Harvey Keitel from Pulp Fiction.
It's Amanda Seyfried, Shiloh Fernandez, Gary Oldman, who we love, and Max Irons, Jeremy Irons' son. It's directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who of course did Twilight. Let's take a look.
We're all in danger. Come away with me. It's time to ask for help.
In daytime, the werewolf returns to its human form.
The real killer lives here, in this village.
It could be your neighbor. Your homes will be searched. Your secrets brought to light.
It's here.
I don't know if this was marketed wrong, but I felt like I was going to either walk into a Twilight kind of movie that was all about the forbidden love, teenage love, or a horror movie. I think early on I started to think this was like a horror movie take on the fairy tale. But unfortunately, it's neither, and therefore it becomes really, really silly and boring. And I actually think that Amanda Seyfried and Shiloh Fernandez had great chemistry. They should have developed them as a couple and made that forbidden love triangle more serious, or I would have preferred, and I cannot believe I'm saying this because you know how much I hate horror movies, I wish it had been scarier and more of a horror movie and more like Ginger Snaps, where it's campy and scary and freaky, but really well done, because it doesn't really do either, and therefore it's really just sort of vanilla. And Leonardo DiCaprio was a producer on it. It was his idea, and I don't know, I'm disappointed. I felt like I was going to get something different, and it really is just a whodunit, and it's just constantly pointing the finger at, is it this villager or this villager, and it becomes really tedious, and ultimately you don't really care. The ending is not a great reveal, and I was bummed. I was really looking forward to this.
I think boring and tedious are the two words you use that sum it up. I mean, the movie is dull, dull, dull. I don't care. You're right that it turns it into every villager has like some sort of motive, and it could be any of them, and it tries to keep toying with you like maybe it's this guy, maybe it's the old lady, and maybe it's them, and it's complications pile on top of complications. It's surprisingly convoluted, considering I feel like its audience skews younger, and they wouldn't want to make it so labored.
And they don't really use the fairy tale. I mean, yes, she wears. I'm like twirling my hair. I like how she wears the red robe, and it wasn't like too much of it, but I could have used a little more. I literally forgot that the whole fairy tale was even part of it. There's one scene where she recites, the grandmother, played by Julie Christie, recites a couple, and it's bizarre.
Well, it's silly.
I mean, that's dumb. Yeah, you're laughing.
When they do reference the fairy tale, it comes off as this really like a fake internet trailer, like Red Riding Hood, like if they were doing a parody and they like keep referencing lines from the fairy tale. That scene you mentioned where she's in bed with Julie Christie and they're doing the like, grandmother, what big ears you have. Like, people in the audience were just laughing at the movie. I mean, it's ridiculous. It plays very poorly.
I will say this, though, about Amanda Seyfried. She is stunning. Her face photographs like Angelina Jolie and Julia Roberts, where it's like her eyes are just enormous. And Catherine Hardwicke talked about wanting her in the film because you feel like she just sort of invites you, and she just looks gorgeous. But you need more. Like... And, the Shiloh Fernandez, I thought he was good. He plays the guy that she's in love with. He was up for the role of Robert Pattinson got for Twilight. So, and I like him. I think he's got a future. And Max Irons, who looks nothing like his father, but he's a talented guy. They just didn't give them anything to do because they're too busy with, pointing fingers. And halfway through, I was like, I wish I was watching Chloe. Did you see Chloe?
I did not see Chloe, no.
Oh, it's streaming on Netflix.
I know, and it's
Amanda Seyfried, lesbian, hot, so much nudity. Her boobs are on display. It's all boobs and hair, but it's still like that is campy, fun, and sexy.
I mean,
and
she looks like she stepped out of like a fairy tale. Like,
Yeah,
I get
which
why
is the
she's
idea.
good. She's good casting in this. Honestly, Catherine Hardwicke, as you mentioned, directed Twilight, and this movie has exactly the same problems as that movie. The performances are super broad and soap opera and campy. The settings all look like sets. None of it looks like a real.
I think that was intentional,
place.
though. I don't think this was supposed to. I mean, it's
But
a
if you look
medieval
at
village.
if you look at something like I'm sure she watched Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow when she was getting ready to do this, because the color palette's really similar and the style is really similar.
It looks pretty, though.
Tim Burton manages to take this storybook world and make it really feel lived in and real and give it real dimension, because that's what he does.
Right.
And this looks glossy and Hollywood, and it looks like you're seeing it on the Universal Studios tour.
I was
like,
assuming
and
that
this
was a
is Red
stylistic
Riding Hood's
choice.
village.
Right.
And I don't. You just never for a minute really believe in the validity of this. It seems like actors in costumes in a cheesy
you
set.
do feel like you're watching a play, like a high school play,
and
a little bit.
And the pacing, again, just like the
Slow.
first Twilight movie,
Yeah.
the pacing on this is just so off. Like,
There's
you keep
something to be
waiting for
said
stuff
though
to
with
happen.
Twilight, where it's about these like two kids who really want to be together, and it's a forbidden love. And it's a similar story here where there's a love triangle. She's supposed to marry Max Irons, but she's in love with Shiloh, but they don't really build it up. So at least with the pacing of Twilight, it's like you're just sort of wanting them to be together. Here it's like dragging out the whodunit, and you're not interested in it all along. And I don't think anyone cared at the end who it was.
No, by that point I was so tuned out. I figured. I mean, you could figure it out. They don't make it that hard to figure out. You can put together who it's going to be, but you don't care enough to even try, really.
Yeah, I'm just bummed because I felt like if this had gone a scarier, like a real like horror route, it could have been cool. It could have been neat, and it just was not, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think all of them have bright futures ahead of them. I mean, Amanda Seyfried is a very good actress, and that Shiloh is hot stuff, I think.
How diplomatic.
I'm just saying.